上你时，他亲手把我吞下了。
芊芊，那我进来了。
厉先生，你的小青梅要来了。他如果看到我们现在这一幕，会不会很伤心呢？
David forced himself on Eleanor, saying this was what she always wanted. But the next second, she woke up, completely stunned. She wasn't just in bed with her new husband, David Miller. She was back in their wedding room from 5 years ago. That's when she realized she had been reborn after being brutally murdered in her past life. Remembering the agony of her death, she immediately told her husband she wanted a divorce. David was furious, convinced Eleanor had drugged him and used his grandfather to force the marriage. He called her disgusting and stormed out, leaving her alone. Just then, her worst nightmare appeared at the door. It was her best friend, Melissa Thorne, the same woman who had framed her for murder and pushed her from a building in her past life to steal her husband. To stop the tragedy from repeating, Eleanor grabbed David and kissed him just as Melissa looked through the blinds. Enraged, David threw her onto the bed. He accused her of being a murderer and left. But this time, Eleanor would not be a victim. She immediately called a lawyer to prepare divorce papers. Melissa then played the innocent victim, reminding David how her own father died saving him in a car accident, a debt she said he could never repay. Just as David started to soften, Eleanor returned and tossed the signed divorce papers onto the table. Melissa scoffed, calling it a trick. As David read the papers, his expression changed. Before he could decide, a text from his grandfather, Mr. Miller, ordered him to bring his new wife home for his mother's birthday. Forced to obey, he left with Eleanor, leaving a furious Melissa behind. Desperate to break them apart, Melissa noticed a gift box on the table, Eleanor's present for David's mother. A wicked smile spread across her face as she cooked up a new plan. When Eleanor arrived at her family home, her father, Mr. Hayes, immediately berated her for failing to bring her husband and secure their company's investment.
怎么就你一个人？丽人，
他没来。
一个没用的东西。要投资呢？你别忘了，你嫁过去是为了什么？
When David unexpectedly showed up, he revealed the real reason for their marriage, a family heirloom, a jade pendant her father had. To get the investment, her father pushed Eleanor into David's arms. But David cruelly rejected her and said the investment depended on her performance. Later, her father forced her to give up the jade pendant, the last memento from her real mother, leaving Eleanor heartbroken. Furious at her father's betrayal and her husband's coldness, Eleanor refused to beg for money. She vowed to secure the investment herself, using knowledge from her past life. On the way to his mother's birthday, David mocked her plain clothes and called her an embarrassment. He took her to a luxury boutique and bought her a stunning gown and a diamond necklace.
这些都是你准备的？
要不是因为爷爷，我才不。
好了，我知道，帮我谢谢爷爷。
In that moment, Eleanor realized he had gone to the trouble of preparing all this, and a flicker of warmth cut through his icy exterior. At the party, Melissa presented a handmade dress to David's mother, Mrs. Miller, who adored it. The other guests mocked Eleanor for bringing a simple store-bought gift. When Mrs. Miller asked to see Eleanor's present, Eleanor revealed a rare, limited edition pen she knew Mrs. Miller always wanted.
这是我从我爸那看到的，我就顺手拿过来了。妈，生日快乐。
The guests were stunned, and their praise quickly turned on Melissa. Furious and humiliated, Melissa's friend Jessica accused Eleanor of giving a fake. But Mrs. Miller, a renowned collector, confirmed its authenticity. Eleanor calmly asked if Melissa's handmade dress could also be fake. Enraged, Melissa lunged at her. Eleanor pulled a loose thread, and the dress began to unravel. She exposed that Melissa hadn't made the dress at all but had stolen the design, revealing her as a liar in front of everyone. At the party, Melissa Thorne viciously accused Eleanor Hayes of trying to steal her spotlight by ruining the dress.
我承认，我是爱抢你风头，可是你这样破坏我的礼物，对你又有什么好处呢？
这还真是好笑呢。你们一大早就到这里来，我才刚到，我怎么损坏你的裙子啊？
Then Eleanor dropped a bombshell and asked why Melissa had been in her honeymoon suite early that morning. Melissa's friend Jessica defended her, saying Melissa was only trying to bring a gift. But Jessica then got aggressive and revealed a small vial, claiming Eleanor had dropped the evidence of her crime. The crowd immediately turned on Eleanor, convinced she had drugged her way into marrying David Miller. Melissa played the victim and cried that fate had wronged her, saying Eleanor had stolen her man. The matriarch of the Miller family, furious at the disgrace, sided with Melissa and ordered Eleanor to be thrown out. As the guests chanted for her to leave, David Miller suddenly appeared and silenced everyone, demanding to know who gave his mother authority over family decisions. David shut his mother down and reminded her he was in charge and would not have Eleanor thrown out. His mother was furious, but David declared the marriage was arranged by his grandfather, and only his grandfather could end it. Jessica tried to guilt him by reminding him that Melissa's father had died because of their family. David coldly dismissed Jessica and turned to Melissa, acknowledging her pain and promising to compensate her. His words only fed Melissa's false sense of victimhood. Eleanor, seeing through the act, said she would get a divorce but not like this, not by being wrongfully thrown out. She produced a USB drive and revealed she had video evidence of who actually drugged David that night.
不是想知道那天晚上下药的人是谁吗？看看不就知道。
我不知道你在说什么。
只要当众播放这条视频，就能知道那天晚上下药的人究竟是谁。你敢吗？
Melissa panicked and tried to stop her. During their struggle, the USB was knocked from Eleanor's hand and flew across the lawn. Melissa threw her handbag to create a distraction and swapped the real USB with a fake one she had prepared. Convinced she had destroyed the evidence, Melissa smirked triumphantly. But Eleanor, who had anticipated this move, revealed the real USB. It turned out she had a friend who was a top hacker and had recovered deleted surveillance footage, proving Melissa was the one who had drugged David. At her own birthday party, Mrs. Miller furiously accused Eleanor of trying to ruin the event. But Eleanor stood her ground, demanding justice and pointing out that Melissa was panicking because the USB in her hand held the truth. An assistant brought a large screen and Melissa begged David not to play the video, reminding him of their childhood bond. David said he trusted her, which was exactly why he had to play the video to clear things up. The matriarch then intervened and reminded everyone Melissa's father had died saving David, implying they owed her loyalty. As Melissa sobbed about her dead father, Eleanor declared she would prove her innocence. When the drive was played, the screen showed a boring business presentation. The crowd erupted in laughter, and Eleanor was humiliated. She realized Melissa had swapped the drives when she knocked over her purse. Eleanor accused Melissa of the trick, but it was too late. Her husband, David Miller, had had enough.
我早该知道的，在你眼里，真相是什么根本就不重要。
Heartbroken that her husband believed she was lying, Eleanor finally snapped. She told him the truth didn't matter to him, and that she never wanted to marry into their family anyway. If it weren't for his grandfather, she would never stay with people who despised her. With tears streaming down her face, she pointed out how obvious Melissa's fake crying and panic were, and then ran out of the party. He turned to a shocked Melissa and asked why she had been so agitated earlier. Seeing she was losing his trust, Melissa immediately threatened to kill herself, just like her father did. While the family rushed to console the master manipulator, David coldly ordered his assistant Mark to get the hotel surveillance footage by any means necessary. Later that night, he found Eleanor walking alone on the road. He told her to get in the car. She refused. He angrily dragged her. She screamed at him to stop following her like a dog. Furious, David left her abandoned in the dark. Back in his office, he stepped on something small and hard on the floor. It was the real USB drive that had fallen from Eleanor's purse. He plugged it into his laptop. While reviewing the damning footage, David Miller got a furious call from his grandfather, Mr. Miller, who knew Eleanor had been wronged at the party. He ordered David to bring her home immediately, or he'd disown him. Just after David hung up, his assistant Mark called to say he had secured the original, unaltered surveillance footage. As David watched the real video showing Melissa Thorne setting up a camera to frame Eleanor, he realized he'd been a fool. The video proved Melissa had drugged him and that Eleanor was the true victim all along. He clenched his fist in rage as another call came in. Melissa was in the hospital. At the hospital, Melissa plotted with an accomplice, Mike. Mike confirmed he had created a deep-fake video to frame Eleanor, edited so perfectly no one would spot it. Melissa smiled, confident Eleanor's reputation would soon be destroyed. Back in his car, David found Eleanor again. He picked her up and carried her to the car. She told him to stop acting crazy. He coldly reminded her he was only doing this because his grandfather ordered it. This sparked another argument about the night he was drugged, with Eleanor insisting she was innocent. Fed up, she demanded he stop the car so she could buy a morning-after pill because she didn't want to risk carrying the child of someone who despised her. David agreed and said she was finally showing some sense. But as he watched her go into the pharmacy, he told Robert he'd been deceived by her acting. He believed she was incapable of such an elaborate scheme and was determined to marry into a wealthy family no matter what it took. While he waited, he saw her buy a pregnancy test and a bottle of folic acid. He realized with a shock she hadn't intended to buy a contraceptive. She returned to the car and lied that she'd taken the pill. David said nothing, but his heart filled with regret. Later, Eleanor took the test and saw it was positive. Just then, she got a call from her father, Mr. Hayes, who demanded she secure a $30 million investment or he would destroy her mother's jade pendant. He reminded her of their plan to get pregnant with David's child to secure her place in the Miller family. She hung up on him, disgusted, just as David walked in and overheard her saying she'd rather get pregnant with anyone else's child than his. The misunderstanding was complete. David, thinking she was trying to trap him, asked why she was being so stubborn and left. As he walked out, he spotted the pregnancy test she had left on the counter. Eleanor blocked the bathroom door, desperately trying to hide the pregnancy test behind her back. David cornered her and demanded to know what she was hiding. She claimed she just needed to use the toilet. He didn't believe her and asked what was behind her back. When she refused to move, he accused her of having a guilty conscience. Thinking fast, Eleanor changed tactics, wrapped her arms around his neck, and suggested they play in the bathroom. David was taken aback but played along and asked if she wanted to play. As he leaned in, she tried to push him away. He stopped and asked again why she wouldn't let him play. Then, his eyes darted to the pregnancy test she had dropped. Before she could react, he grabbed her phone and saw a selfie she had taken. He sneered and accused her of being sneaky, just to take a picture. Eleanor, relieved he hadn't seen the test, declared they would sleep in separate rooms from now on. Later, sitting on the bed, she looked at the positive test and promised her unborn child she would protect it. A maid arrived with a first aid kit sent by David. The maid insisted the master was stubborn but really liked her. Eleanor knew better and thought the man he truly loved was Melissa Thorne. As she drank a glass of milk, she saw a news alert on her phone. The global group's bidding was starting. She realized her chance had come because Melissa would be at the bidding event, and she planned to stop her. Suddenly, a wave of nausea hit, and she rushed to the sink. David walked in and asked if she had diarrhea. She snapped that just seeing him made her sick and said she was going to see a lawyer to file for divorce. As she left, David's grandfather, Mr. Miller, called and scolded his grandson for upsetting his wife. Eleanor snatched the phone, sweetly told the grandfather she missed him, and told him to take care of his health. After the call, David was furious she had made him look bad. He grabbed her arm and demanded to know if she was done causing trouble. She coldly asked if he was falling in love with her and now afraid of a divorce. He scoffed that no one would ever love a scheming woman like her. "Good," she replied. "Then let's get divorced sooner." Her words echoed in his mind as he sat at the bidding conference. Melissa Thorne approached him and confidently said the proposal he had helped her with would surely win. But just as she spoke, Eleanor Hayes walked into the room and stunned everyone. Melissa stared in disbelief and wondered why Eleanor had followed them all the way there.